What up, Faithful? Welcome to the 49er Faithful UK. We're live and coming at you from across the pond to break down everything that's happened over the first 6 days of the San Francisco 49ers training camp. From standout rookies to position battles, surprise performers, and the ever watchful eye on the quarterback room. You name it, we've got it. So grab a brew, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get ready to talk all things Niners with the usual UK twist.
But you never know that you could. And when you feel that way, ain't it good, good dancing in the red and gold. Dancing in the red and gold.
Shout out to the UK faithful, and whether you're joining us from the United Kingdom, the United States, or anywhere else around the globe, we're delighted to have you with us. I'm Paul Hope, and today I'm joined by two of the UK's finest, Gary Thorpe and Nathaniel James. So whether you've been refreshing your timeline for every camp report, or you're just catching up, we've got you covered, as I said at the start. Gary is, of course, our very own resident watch party MC, part of the admin team, and also a very good friend of mine. Thank you for joining the UK Faithful Live, Gary.
Woo, you Faithful UK Live. Let's go, boys. Thanks for having me on, Paul. Really appreciate the invite. How are you doing?
I'm liking the new lid, Gary. I
You
noticed
liking
that
the new
today.
Lucy's lid? Yeah. I've got to admit, I was suckered in by Steph Curry. Couldn't help myself. You might have had something to do with that on your social media, but yeah, I saw this one. I thought Bay Area in red, got to be done.
I'm sure the female partners of the 49er Faithful UK do not like my social media, but it is a nice lid, Gary. It does go well with your Kittle jersey, and it is nice to see you, buddy.
It's been a while. It's really nice to see you. And I really, as I say, thanks for inviting me on. I can't wait to dive into training camp news.
And as I said, we've also got Nathaniel joining. He's a returning guest, an active member of the UK community, and someone that I am fortunate enough to call a friend. He's a friend of the show. He's been dying to get back on. Nathaniel, thank you for joining us, buddy.
Thank you very much for having me, Paul. It's great to be back. Honoured to be back, and yeah, good to see you as well, Gary. Can't wait to just get back to, the well, we're almost there, aren't we? Sort of the preseason games and getting into the nitty gritty of. I think it's going to be a restart year, but I'm sure we'll get onto that. But yeah, thanks again for having me. Pleasure to be on and that. So yeah.
Well, you mentioned, Nathaniel, football is actually on this Thursday. I saw the notification flash up on my YouTube earlier. I was like, the Hall of Fame game. So that means from this Thursday, chaps, we have football pretty much every week until now and February. So that is great news. But honestly, chaps, thanks for joining me. As I said at the start, training camp is underway and the pads are on. Now, it's been fantastic to see my timeline full of football highlights, training camp talk. The team is enjoying a well-earned day off today. So we've timed it quite right because we thought we're better to touch base because being in the UK, we're not as fortunate to be the likes of Brad Graham, Steph Sanchez, who are at training camp. Just wanted to shout them out because I've been watching them on my timeline.
My timeline's been full of those guys. Those are your. I don't know about you, but those are my go-to. And I saw Brad shouting out his followers. But I mean, I think what Brad does from the sidelines, and he's got such a massive following. People listen to what he does so much. So shout out to him. He has definitely been my go-to for the last 6 days.
Yeah, I mean, friend of the show. We can say that, Gary, because we did have Brad on in the off-season. But I have been very envious to see him at training camp. He's been there with his son. As you said, Gary, he's the go-to for content creators and the 49er content creating land. The Gold Standard Network, Rob Stats Guerrera, who also had me on his show, Steph Sanchez. But I used to as plugged in as what I may be Tracy's obviously rolling the eyes because this time of year I'm ramping up. I'm always watching a podcast. I'm always making notes. So are you still as plugged in as me?
I think it's quite difficult. I kind of, for me, I think I tend to sort of, when it comes to sort of the whole like, sort of the draft and everything, I'm kind of really excited because I think, oh yeah, we're getting the new potential guys that are going to come in for this year and everything. I used to listen to quite a lot of Matt Miyoko, but obviously that's kind of, it's difficult because I've kind of phased out, and what it's like. Life kind of gets in the way sometimes. But to be honest, I mean, I do like listening to him on his podcasts, and just if there's something that comes up, you get the notifications. I mean, it does go a bit quieter after the draft, I've found, because you kind of like you just sort of sat there waiting for the actual, the preseason to begin. The organized training activities and everything else. So yeah, it doesn't, for me, I'm not as, it goes quiet between sort of, I guess, between when the draft happens to when the actual season, sort of the preseason starts. But I don't know what you're like, Gary, but that's me anyway.
I'd say I'm probably halfway between the two. I think, Paul, your timeline must have exploded in the last week. Obviously from your social media side, as part of the 49er Faithful UK main pod group, etc., you're probably going to be a little bit more over it than we are. But I'm kind of halfway in between what you're saying, Matt. It's nice to kind of go quiet, draft the preseason, and there is, that draft the preseason bit is horrible, Paul, and I'm sure you'll agree. Rumors, people trades, everyone makes like massive deals about the smallest Instagram posts or the littlest thing, and gets completely blown out of all proportions. But now that the pads are on, now that training camp has properly started, now that everyone is back at Santa Clara, now that they're on the stat practice field, now it starts to feel like, and as Paul says, the Hall of Fame game is just a couple of days away now. It's like it's back. It's starting to really ramp up. So I'm halfway between. My timeline is not massively full because I've still got all the other stuff that I follow, Paul, as you know, like the Formula One and all that other stuff. But the football side is starting to come through, and I've been keeping abreast of the football news, hopefully the real news, and trying to avoid some of that, as I say, some of those crazy conspiracy theories about, oh, he posted this on Instagram or he did that or whatever else.
Well, one of the things, we're not going to do Brock straight away, chaps. I know I said to you off air, I don't have a structure. I do want to talk quarterback, but not just yet. But Mr. Kent, Gowland's favourite content creator, I'm joking. We all know Lee doesn't like Mr. Kent. He tends to be hung up, chaps, on training camp stats. Now, I do love a good stat on this show, but training camp isn't the place for it. I'm not going to tell you what Brock went for yesterday in training or the day before. What we are going to talk about when we get to Brock is how he's looking. But training camp is practice, and it's practice for a reason. I don't know if you guys have seen JJ Watt has gone viral. He's talked about you've got to put it in context. You don't know whether they're doing an install. You don't know whether they're doing a goal line play. You don't know whether the D linemen have been told, to look out for a certain thing. And if you cast your mind back to a few years ago when Salah was our coordinator, and there was a day, an infamous day, where Jimmy G threw five interceptions in practice, and the sky was falling in. And that was the year that Salah took over the defense and we went on the Super Bowl run. Now, I'm thankful nothing like that's happened to Brock, but we went live last Wednesday, and I think we'd only had 1 day of training camp, and it was no pads. So we're kind of fortunate that the way the calendar's fallen, that today the team have got a day off. Because also, Gary, we went live last week just as training camp was finishing day one. So Carl Shanahan was due to speak to the media, and that's what we said at the start.
Firing off. Yeah,
a UK show with a UK twist, but it's 8 p.m. in the UK. And yes, David, it's 8 p.m. today. It's not 8:15. We do apologise for last week. But you both said about not being as plugged in. There hasn't been the drama around the 49ers this year. Even us, the 49er Faithful UK, we've taken a bit of a break. It's been nice to kind of catch up with family, enjoy the downtime. But the ramp up of my timeline, Gary, because I do just do NFL and 49ers, these last 10 days has been awesome.
It's just been, but as you say, I'm just highlighting that there. It feels like maybe for the first time in 4 5 years an off season that has been pretty drama-less for the 49ers. You know, there's been no QB controversy, there's been no holdouts, there's been no contract negotiations, blah 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 blah. Yes, there's been a few sort of rumbles, but there's been no massive things. You know, the team got the stuff done. They got the contract extensions for the players that we kind of all wanted. Yes, obviously everyone's out there playing Madden, going, "Why haven't we signed this, that, and the other person, and whatever else?" But that's kind of not reality. But I think it's been really nice that it's not been that drama-filled off season of who goes, who stays, who's doing this, who's doing that. It's been calm, which is hopefully a harbinger of good things. Just trying to not get too hurt of yourself.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk, Nathaniel, about the turnover of the 49ers. So, you know, we were the losers on day one of free agency. As we said on the show before, there was only Dre Greenlaw that was really upset about leaving. And seeing his video yesterday, I don't know if you saw it yet. So he was interviewed at the Broncos training camp. And basically he was talking about being a foster child and the fact that he grew up not being wanted. And the fact the Broncos wanted him more than the Niners is what it came down to. That did hurt, because
that's a bit, doesn't it?
One of the battles we will be talking about on tonight's show, I'm sure, is the linebacker
second
battle.
linebacker spot. Yeah.
So on that talk, Nathaniel, we can either talk linebacker, but as a guest, I wanted to know where's your head at the moment. So we've had the roster turnover, we've got quite a high draft class, so there's going to be a lot of rookies on this team. What is the one thing that you're looking for at the moment ahead of the season?
I guess for me, I mean, I know in response to your previous question about you know, what Dre, you know, Great Greenlaw said, and if he did say that's really quite sad, to be honest, because quite honestly, I don't think there was ever the impression that, you know, Shani or the team didn't want him. Obviously, it comes down to, you know, what they have to do from a financial perspective, and obviously you've got to weigh up what players you've got. You know, you've got to place you've got to pay. You know, Purdy. We needed a QB. We've needed a QB for so long, but as I say, that's the thing. For me, I think the one thing that I really want to sort of focus on is just because I think we're in a sort of a rebuild, sort of. I suppose you could argue, because obviously we've taken quite a lot, and I guess even at the draft, it was, you know, we had a lot of you know, sort of players that were picked as defensive players, and I think that's kind of, you know, it's kind of a rebuild from that perspective. Obviously, we lost, you know, we lost Hufanga, and we lost, you know, some really other, you know, some big names, you know, sort of cornerback and everything else. So it's a sad sort of situation. But then I guess from what I understand, I think it's going to be, you know, I think it'll be a positive move from a defensive standpoint. I do have a bit of a concern about the offensive line, but I guess if you're in that rebuild, you've got to do it, you know. And when I watched the draft, my thinking was that we were taking quite a lot of players, and I know I'm referencing probably something that happened, you know, a few months ago, but it's it's the options of what we had at the time.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't think there was anybody, you know, past the first 10 rounds, and we needed, you know, when we needed a defensive player to almost replace Dre Greenlaw. You know, we had to, like, you know, we didn't have any options around the O-line. So that was, you know, that's what my sort of thought was regarding everything. So yeah, but I'd say I don't know what what's Gary's thoughts around that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it felt the draft was very much Robert Saleh saying it's a retool. We've lost, as you say, we've lost a number of bodies. I want to kind of maybe get back to the Salah-esque, if you like, defense of all gas, no brakes. And it seems like he went that way. A lot of the draft were twitchy speed players, not so much, you know, big brutes, although CJ West apparently is like an absolute bear in the middle. But that's some feedback I've been picking
Alfred
up.
Collins is quite a small guy as well, isn't he, Gary?
Yeah, tiny guy, tiny little guy. Barely see him if he turns sideways. Yeah, and I think Salah came in, and it did feel like, you know, after the first round and second round, it was like, okay, this is the Salah draft. I think it was like the 5th or 6th round before we ended up getting an offensive player. concern around, there's a lot of reliance on first and second year players this year. So there's a little bit of concern around that. But as you say, we have to pay the players that we have to play. We've paid Kittle, we've paid Ayuk, we've paid 30, paid Kittle, we've paid a number of the big players. We've got to find bodies that fit around there. So there's going to be hopefully that second year step, but not the regression that sometimes you see with some of our second year players. The concern, obviously, for me, probably the main concern is that wide receiver room as a battle. Who's going to come through there? Because I think we know who our wide receiver one is, but he's probably not playing for the first 6 weeks ish. Maybe nobody really knows. So we're relying on JJ there at wide receiver 2. He's got to step into that second role. Who's the other guy? Is it Ricky? Is it Jacob Cowling? Is it one of the other guys? Is it Isaiah Naylor, who's getting a lot of love and is picking up a lot of news? So I'm interested to see who comes through that battle. The other side of the things, as you just mentioned, Paul, the linebacker battle is going to be an interesting one. Who picks up that second spot? It sounds like it's somebody's already put their hand on it and kind of claimed half that jersey already from some of the feedback I've been hearing. And Jennifer Lee Chan has come out with some great sort of states and stats about it. And yeah, as you say, the cornerback and losing Ward, losing that secondary, there's a bit of a retooling there. Yes, there's some young guys who obviously showed up last season. But is it too much of an overhaul? Too much of a retool? Only time will tell.
I mean, circling back, Nathaniel, I only saw like the 30-second clip of Greenlaw, but what I said to you was word for word. So when people say, "Who was your source?" It was Dre Greenlaw. I saw it on Twitter. And I think you're right in what you're saying. I think the team wanted him. But I think when free agency started, we lost all these players. Then we went into the draft, and as Gary's just said there, we're relying on a lot of first, second-year players. Shanahan, as a head coach, is notorious for not trusting the rookies. Now, one bright spark that came out of last year, and you all know me, chaps, I love to look on the positive side, is the rookies had to play last year. Now, yes, there could be the sophomore slump. The Punisher, Gowland's favourite player, hasn't had a great camp. Now, I'm not sounding the alarm bells yet because he's been going up against some monsters, and that's what we're going to talk about. But D. Winters is apparently closing in on that starting linebacker position opposite All-Pro Fred. From what I've seen from the people who've been there on the ground, so again, this isn't me. I haven't been at Levi, sadly, but the likes of Brad Graham, Steph Sanchez.
Next year.
Who have been there. Well, Gary Tracy does watch. Who knows? But apparently, D. Winters has made that job his own. And to see a linebacker repping 53, tearing it up on the field opposite 54, maybe, as you said, Nathaniel, as much as they wanted to keep Greenlaw, but the money Greenlaw wanted, maybe this is the 4D chess that we've talked about, wanting Shanahan to be the head coach. He's brought Salah in. From all accounts, Salah has had a huge impact on the draft. I don't know if you follow Jed York on Twitter. He was hilarious on draft day because he kept tweeting out about Salah making the picks. And let's face it, this defense could be facing, 6 to 8 rookies in that starting defense. Does that fill you with confidence, Gary? Or does that fill you with a little bit of nerves?
I suppose I'm kind of got that nervous, but from watching so much college football, less so than maybe some other players and some other fans, because I've seen some of these guys week in, week out watching the college game. So I know maybe a touch more. I don't want to kind of blow my own trumpet, but a lot of the NFL fans kind of go, college, you only kind of think about it during the draft weekend and never think about it again. Some of these guys have come through, although not setting the world alight in terms of stats and figures and numbers. Like Williams at Georgia was outstanding, but he was working, and what he did made other players around him get some of the bigger stats and stuff like that. So I've got no massive qualms about that. Obviously, the step up between college and playing against real men is going to be different. So I haven't got that nervous worry. My concern always with rookies is by week 8, 9, and 10. That's usually when they hit that rookie wall, because they've had a whole season either going to the football, the college football playoffs, so they've gone, usually high draft picks have gone deep into the playoff rounds. Then they've gone through the whole emotional aspect of getting ready for the draft and the combine and pro days and all of that sort of stuff. And then they're literally thrown from draft straight into that mandatory training camps. They have not had downtime. properly. And then they're kind of fighting for their position. They're in a new camp. They're trying to get on the roster. It's all massively, massively, massively important for them. My concern is week 8, 9, 10, they suddenly go, right, I've made the roster. I'm on the team. I've played my first couple of downs. You know, I've been on the pitch and whatever else. Then they hit that emotional, God, my body is broken. I'm tired. I haven't played, you know, because college is only a shorter season as well. They haven't played those 17, 18 game seasons against these big guys. That's my only concern with the amount of leaning on the rookies. So hopefully we rotate them in enough with the second years and whatever else. We don't just go, right, rookies, in you go, because, or maybe flip side, first 6 weeks, whack them in while they're, you know, hairs on fire and going for it, and then look to rotate. So that's where I'm looking at it. I hope it's not 100% rookies, or if it is, they're kind of balanced with, you know, we've got to look after them, because I'm assuming and I'm hoping we've got a lot, you know, it's going to be a long season. We've got a postseason then to deal with as well. We've got to make sure that we've got the bodies.
So as Paul has put there in the chat, I did see this. So Rich Einson, he did an interview with Matt Miyoko, and he was talking about how he loves to cover the Niners, how there's always, you know, the fan base, the content, but it has been a boring off season at the moment. And as other people are saying in the chat, we will take that every year. Now, Ty, I'd sign up for it here, buddy. Do you share?
If it's not 6 and 10, right? If it's not 6 and 10, it's what?
Exactly. So did you share Gary's concerns, Nathaniel, about the rookies? Because I'll be honest, I don't do college football, but when it gets to draft season, I plug in. Then once we draft those players. So I'm quite fortunate that I don't have those college players that I fall in love with. I hope the Niners draft and then have to watch them go somewhere else. So I start to watch once we've signed them. Now training camps happened. I'm plugged in now. You know, the draft class we've got now, I'm starting to look at. So I haven't got those concerns that Gary's got at the moment. But do you think that's fair, what Gary said?
Yeah. I do. It's a difficult, because to be honest, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't follow a lot of the college football, you know, and I don't, you know, I'm not one to sort of. And I guess I really should, to be honest. I think this is the first year I actually bought a sort of magazine that you know sort of covered the college players that were coming out that looked at, you know, being good prospects. But that's only because I thought we really, you know, we were going to be retooling in quite a number of differing positions. So am I concerned about, you know, the sort of the draft class overall? Not necessarily. I mean, I think these guys are, you know, they're professional football players. So I think they're going to be fully fit, you know, when it comes to, you know, getting through the season. Obviously, they have a bit of rest time between, you know, the time that they, well, I'd imagine they have quite a bit of rest time between the time that they are, you know, leading up to coming into the season. They're not in pads. They're not doing anything as intense as what they would be doing if they were, you know, coming in. So I think the difficult, it's a hard one, because you don't really know, do you? Because hopefully, you know, people like, you know, Mikael Williams and, you know, sort of, I mean, CJ West, I've heard that, and Gary, you touched on him a minute ago. He's had, like, you know, full 3 good days of training, and he, you know, he's played really, really quite well on the field. But I don't know. It's a hard one, because you just don't know whether or not, you know, the players that Salah has picked are going to be either, you know, they're going to kind of come through and be really good, or total busts. Now that, I guess that's kind of the risk you're taking with
the joy of the draft every year, though, isn't it?
I mean, to be fair, Nathaniel, I'm due on good friend of the show, Andy Davies, across the pod. So I'm on tomorrow night with Andy, talking about the Niners, our expectations of the season. And you always feel a bit nervous doing these kind of shows, July, start of August, because as you've said there, we've had 6 days of training camp. We've had 2 days of pads. So I do appreciate it was a bit of a tough question. Now, as some of the other content creators are saying, at the moment, we've all been starved of 49ers football. So as you can imagine, at the moment, everybody's breaking the neck to go out first, hot takes. We're known for a bold prediction or 2 on this show, but maybe it's a good thing that Gowland, Carrar, and Ellis aren't here tonight, because, as I said, you know,
It's already going off in the chat, though. They're already selling it in the chat.
tamper those brakes a little bit. Now, you mentioned Williams. Now, Nickel Williams was a bit of a, I want to say, in the Zoom chat, I believe there were a divided opinion whether he was who we should have taken. Now, again, as I said, I don't watch a lot of college football, but from what I've gathered, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, Williams is looking even better now than when we picked him.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff I've seen coming out with training camp.
He's been hitting the gym. He's been hitting the gym. He's bulked up. He's not lost. What Williams had in college was that sort of fast twitch, bend, get round the outside, would always usually tie up two offensive linemen, which, what I say, two offensive linemen are worried about Williams means the rest of the Georgia defensive line is feeding, and, the stats showed that. But he's been, what I've been hearing, as you say, Paul, from training camp, is he's still kept that twitch, that speed off the line, but he's also kind of filled out a little bit more as well. And he's obviously been taking training in between very seriously. So as long as he doesn't, the concern sometimes with college players coming out is that they kind of go, oh, I've got to get bigger, I've got to get bigger, I've got to get bigger, because now it's a man's game, right? And they suddenly bulk up, but they lose some of that athleticism that you get out of college players, where they are, they've got the bend, they've got the twitch, they've got that fast get off. And it's kind of a gradual process. They can't do it all in the first off season. So hopefully he's kept that sort of middle ground. But yeah, he's definitely one that I'm keeping an eye on. And I think by having him there, either just in that, set your hair on fire and go after the QB third down. And I think that's where he'll come into his own. I don't think he's probably going to be a 3-down defensive lineman from the outset. I think they'll try and rotate him in. Obviously, as you say, CJ West up the middle as well, as doing, setting the world alight apparently at training camp with pads on and, raising a few eyebrows. But I think he'll make the stats better for all of that defensive line. And obviously, as you say, once Chris Kacherik gets hold of that defensive line and starts molding it to the way he wants, he can make world-class players out of everybody.
So Gav has raised a good point there. So Williams didn't practice yesterday, and it was an ankle injury, which I believe is what he struggled with in college. But one of the things that I saw, Gary, was the run defense last year was non-existent. And the reports I'm hearing out of training camp is the offensive had to go at the air because the run defense already under Salah. And Brad Graham was gushing over Williams. In particular, he said there was a play that went on where Bosa lined up in the wide 9. Williams went in the 2-point stance. They had Givens on the inside shade on the guard with a stunt. The play snapped. Bosa crashes in. Mikel looked like he was going into coverage. So he took 2 steps into coverage. And then, boom, as you said, that intense power, speed, his long arms. And it was like, whoa, Salah's cooking already. Now, it's one play, Nat. It's one play in training camp. But given the defense that we saw last year, and I know Sorensen got a bit of a bad rep, but you've got to be happy, Nathaniel, that Robert Salah is controlling this defense.
Oh, yeah. Oh, who wouldn't be, to be honest, like after what he did? I think initially, yeah, he had quite a young team to kind of work with, didn't he? And yeah, he had some busts, unfortunately, but it's great to have him back. And what he does is absolutely amazing. And yeah, it's a shame that things didn't work out for the Jets. But then, as a head coach, because I think, his intelligence as a defensive coach is, is second to none, isn't it? He can just do things and he's got the schemes that he just needs to have the players in the right positions. I think one thing that I was kind of thinking about is that I know that we focus quite a lot on some of the rookies, but we've got a veteran coming in. Bryce Huff has come over, I think, from, was it the Eagles? He came over from the Eagles. I think it was the Eagles, and then he played. Is that right? Am I right in that? I'm thinking that was. But
the chat will let us know. We know we brought him in, Nathaniel.
Or was it Eagles to Jets?
Whoever he played for.
It was Jets to Eagles, and then he played for
Jets to Eagles. Didn't work out in the deep. Yeah, came to us.
Yeah, and he played, and he won a. I don't know if what he did for the.
Well, he got a Super Bowl ring, but whether or not he won.
Yeah, but I think what my point is the familiarity, because obviously when he was drafted, he was drafted by the Jets, so I guess it's good, that Salah has some familiarity around what he's actually, bringing and everything else. And it's good that he can mentor some of the other players. I think Bose has sort of said that Mikael Williams is fast, but we talked about how fast he is from that twitching perspective. But bringing down players, something that he's probably going to need to kind of develop, even though he has bulked up. It would be quite thanks TY. It'd be good to sort of Bosa to mentor and have that sort of perspective. So hopefully.
So what you talked about there before you give your thoughts, Gary. So Salah spoke glowingly at the press conference yesterday about when he was here the first time, and that he kind of owed Fred Warner an apology because he was saying football, this wonderful game we all love, it's easy to forget sometimes that it's 11 athletes versus 11 athletes. And yes, you need to know the playbook. Yes, you need to use the players. But when you've got 20 seconds from getting that play in your ear to then making a play, and it was quite interesting, that showed growth to me, that he was going back to the 2019 season and he was saying, Fred, I owe you an apology. And like you were saying, Sorensen ran the same scheme. Fred Warner spoke about he's fortunate that as a defender, he's played for 8 seasons in the NFL with the same scheme. But I think what we're already seeing in training camp with these rookies coming in, now an injection of youth, enthusiasm, you're fighting for that job, add in a new head coach, add in the disappointment of last season. It's interesting to hear Salah kind of speaking like that. To me anyway, chaps, what do you make of that, Gary?
Yeah, it's nice the retrospective, because as you say, he was DC. He went off to be head coach. He's learnt, he would have learnt a lot from that time in New York, good, bad, and ugly, whatever you learn from everything. I think you would have also learned going to Green Bay and doing that sort of consultancy role that he did at the end of last year. That was an interesting wrinkle that I thought was quite, to see it, because I think he went there to look from an offensive point of view at defenses, and I thought that was quite an interesting one. So to have that sort of self-reflection, the learning that he's bringing, and kind of coming back to it and kind of not coming in going, it's me. He's learned a bit. It's a bit more reflective. He's a bit more like, okay, I'm here with these guys. These guys are a bit special. Let's kind of find a way to not just, as you say, Paul, yes, there are 11 athletes, but there are, there's a couple of very, 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 very good athletes. Let's use them to the best of our ability and find ways to get them free and find ways to get them wreaking havoc and being the missile that we know, all pro Fred can be, or the absolute wrecking ball that Bosa can be. I think he's going to be, yes, it's the same scheme, as you say, Paul. It's a scheme that everyone's going to be familiar with, but I think there's going to be some wrinkles and tweaks and little bits in that scheme that maybe haven't been seen before, and maybe it's going to take time to bed in, but I recognize to say it's going to be that all-out defense, all-out speed, all-out hustle to the ball, 11 players making a tackle near enough at times. I think it's going to be a joy to watch defenses again on for the 49ers, and it wasn't that great watching it last year.
It wasn't, but again, there's some people in the chat have been talking online, so we do like to go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm going to come back to that because I have got a stat to back it up. But the vibes, chaps, are 180 degrees different in this year's camp to last year's. I do remember kind of we all were on that emotional roller coaster of that devastating loss. Then we had all the contract drama, and then it felt for me, and I do this as a hobby, that I didn't have a break. I kind of felt emotionally drained before we even got to training camp. Where this year, even for me, we've had a break. I've done stuff with the family. I've kind of kept an eye in. I've managed to be lucky enough to go on some of the bigger content creator shows and talk football, but it's quite exciting now to see, the chat on fire tonight. Now, we have talked about Williams. We've mentioned, obviously, Collins. CJ West seems to be a name that I'm hearing more and more. Now, he continues to throw his weight around, chaps. He didn't look as dominant in the one-on-one drills yesterday as he did on Monday. But I think we took him in the 4th round. And at the moment, Gary, it's looking like we've got another steal in the 4th round.
And that's historically, somehow this organization has always managed to do that, right? And it's fine, those late round steals or those players that maybe when you see them play, you kind of go, oh, how did he only go in the 4th? They kind of find those rough edges, rough diamonds. Maybe they see things that fit our scheme, that don't quite fit others, and whatever else. And I think CJ West, I think we knew we needed a big guy. We needed a run blocking stuffer in the middle. And although size wise, he's kind of in that mold, but he's also in the same Salah athletic mold. He can move, he can shift. He's not just like, I'm just going to plant myself and block this, block the nose tackle gap, and I'm just going to stay here. He's fast. He's got the athleticism to play in with all the stunts and everything else. And so I think, like anything, like the O line, like the D line, it's going to take time to meld. It's going to take time for them to get to grips with each other, because he'll move left on his stunt and probably run into Mikael Williams, or because they got to work their timings out. They've got to work those little things out. But yeah, I agree that his name has popped up on more than one occasion in the last few days, of somebody who's really stepped it up and really kind of caught the eye of a number of in the know people. We can say, oh, it sounds good from us, but these are reports coming from people who know about the trenches, know about defensive line work and stuff like that. And if they're calling him out, then it's obviously a pretty good sign.
So you must be happy with that, Nathaniel. The run defense is looking better. Salah's back. So I know. So we talked. Well, I'm going to come back to you, Nathaniel, because Paul asked a question that you mentioned at the start of the show. So there's a lot of talk on the defensive line, but there was a lot of conjecture that we didn't address some of what people see as the glaring holes of the defensive line. So Paul's raised a question there that we ranked 13th in the league last year, according to PFF. Is it perfect? No. Is it functional? Yes. What's your thoughts on the offensive line at the moment? Again, putting you on the spot, you're going to regret coming on this show.
I mean,
nobody's keeping receipts, right?
We've not. I don't think we've taken, and do correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've taken anybody on the offensive line side of things, even as a rookie. Yeah, it's functional, but I do have concerns that we don't have any big names apart from Williams, and he's coming back off an injury. So yeah, it'll be difficult. It'll be interesting to see what kind of does happen. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's going to be probably when we get to sort of the proper games. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I guess my only perspective is that if we need people to, we're going to need them to step up quite a lot. And we're going to be facing some big teams, including the Rams this year. I guess my only concern is that we have the tools. If it's functional, then yeah, that's great. But it needs to make sure that it protects Purdy, because obviously, my worry is that we're going to have like another. And the thing is, we saw it, and I do sort of watch other teams, and I really felt for and I'm switching over to the Indianapolis Colts, but I really felt for Andrew Luck, because he probably with the right offensive line, he could have gone a lot further than what he did do. So my only concern is that is it functional? Well, I hope it is, but I do have that worry that obviously, touch wood, we're not going to have that. And I am touching wood that, we don't have any sort of injuries, behind that offensive line.
I mean, we did take someone in the 7th round. So we took an offensive lineman, Connor Colby.
Picked up some drafted free agents, I think, as well, didn't we?
Possibly. The chat will let us know. Now, Colton McKivitz has had a lot of hate, particularly from Gowland, but he has been beating Bosa in some of the reps, and he's been looking serviceable. I think Mr. Ellis likes to protect Colton McKivitz by saying, if you look pound for pound where he was taken, his contract. Now, you're right. Andrew Luck was a quarterback that I fell in love with when I first started watching the NFL. I think the difference with Luck to Purdy likes to have those throws, anticipation. He likes to get the ball out quickly. I think with Andrew Luck and the Colts, I think it was a case of Superman sometimes, wasn't it? He had nowhere to go, kept hold of the ball, and then he kind of Kaepernick-esque kind of used his legs to protect the play. And I think the Colts did the same with Richardson last 2 seasons. You could argue they haven't really protected him. The worry that I have with Brock, which we're going to get onto, is the wide receivers, which we're 40 minutes in, chaps, in the chat. I haven't talked about wide receivers yet. So we're doing all right at the
Pretty
moment.
impressive. We're doing okay. We're doing okay on that front.
The reason I mentioned the offensive line now is Mina Keems shared a tweet the other day and I screenshot it. And I thought this is going to come in useful because I love a good stat. Even as the most injured team in the league last year, the 49ers were top 10 in DVOA, top 12 in success rate and expected points per attempt, second in yards per play, and third in a percentage of players over 10 yards. Yet people are saying Shanahan's offense is being found out. People are panicking about the offensive line. CMC, I know the chap mentioned his Achilles, not a medical professional, but from what I've seen this week, he's looking damn good. He's looking pretty good.
Wasn't he? Was supposed to slow? Wasn't it the previous rumors?
There's a few people talked about. I mean, George Kittle had Achilles tendonitis a couple of years ago. You know, the team. It gets me to the next point. I was going to ask you both a question because there's a lot of talk about the offensive line. There's a lot of talk about CMC's workload. Garendo flashed last year, but we're starting the Jordan James hype train now. Oregon play, so it keeps Najee happy. But from what I'm seeing, chaps, where are we going to be keeping 4 running backs on this roster? Because the Jordan James hype train is about to leave the station. What do you reckon, Groovy? Do you reckon we should start printing those T-shirts now? Or does Najee need to start pumping those brakes?
I think Najee might want to just hold back on his Ducks glove there just for a second. I do think we'll keep him though, because I think he provides a difference. You know, he does. As you say, we got CMC coming back from Achilles and looks like as good as ever. And congratulations, by the way, to the McCaffreys for their birth of their newborn. Happy days all round there. And obviously Garendo, as you say, flashed for that speed things. But Jordan James definitely is going to come in now. You know, we've got an opening there for a bruiser. We've got an opening for another running back after Jordan Mason left to go to Minnesota. I think we're definitely keeping him. But do we keep 4? You know, you're counting Juice there as our 4th, or are you counting?
Well, that's the question. What I was going to come to you two, chaps, you know. So you've mentioned there, obviously, CMC, Garendo, top of the draft chart. You've got Carl Juszczyk in there, Patrick Taylor Jr., special teams contributions. You know, a lot of talk about special teams last year. The new coordinators come in, took a sweeping brush, got rid of all the special teams. So could Taylor sneak in because of those contributions, which then leaves someone looking out? From what I've seen at training camp, Nathaniel, Jordan James is starting to look a bit like Jordan Mason. The Niners don't want you to talk about it because they wanted to put him on the practice squad. But from what I've seen already, he's catching out of the backfield. And you know, us Niners fans love a running back that can catch. He's played in a similar scheme to Shanahan, the outside zone. He also played a bit of inside zone at college. So he does look a good fit. But is it too early to say? Probably. But, you know, why not have a talk about it now?
Well, I think, to be honest, it's all down to whether or not, you know, he's going to be competing, isn't he? He's going to be going for, you know, if he can get a position and he can do it, then, you know, brilliant. You know, he's because everybody's going to be trying at this stage to make, you know, the last 53 man. Yeah, it'll be an interesting season, you know, kind of going ahead. My thinking is that, you know, when we did lose Debo. I mean, I for one, it was, you know, it wasn't. He regressed quite a lot more than what he did the year prior. I think, you know, the year that we went to the Super Bowl, even though people probably would argue that he didn't have that particular, you know, he wasn't particularly even brilliant then. But I think what my point is that a lot of, you know, he was kind of considered a receiving back, so, you know, rather than a running back. And, you know, it is kind of like with those schemes that, you know, sort of, well, it's not Shani that kind of does them, but obviously you get somebody to you know, put those schemes into place. Talking about players that take that position, actually fulfill those, you know, those roles. Why, you know, there shouldn't be any reason. I mean, if he can make a, you know, if he can get a spot on as a receiver, then, you know, why not? Why not take him? You know, he might be able to fulfill a role and catch everybody out. Yeah. So yeah.
The reason I asked you, Nathaniel, and Gary's going to laugh in a minute, for those people who are part of the Discord, it's not after dark, but this quote from Kyle Shanahan qualifies for hashtag after dark. So when Shanahan was asked about James, he started by saying he hits the holes hard and he's a powerful runner. Now, I did write that down and think that's definitely going to get me into trouble on YouTube. 5'9", 208 pounds. He's a physical back with that good short area quickness. I think he's a Kyle Shanahan kind of player. I said this about Gorendo. You know, maybe it might come down to the two of them, but we're in that kind of nitty gritty stage at the moment where training camps just started. There's the 90 guys on the roster.
Yeah.
We're going to start cutting it down. So don't worry. I'm not going to put anyone on the spot tonight. We're not making any bold predictions about
53 predictions
53
tonight.
man. Now, there's a lot of talk in the chat, chaps, about kickers. And as Gary has said there, kickers are people too. Now, if you've come to this show expecting some controversy, yesterday wasn't the day of practice for you because both kickers had 4 attempts each.
Yeah.
Both hit 4. Both were 100%. Nothing to talk about as it stands at the moment. Where do you stand on your kicker, Nathaniel? You keeping Jake Moody or are you giving the new guy a shot?
No, I think it's a hard one, isn't it?
No.
You're not Gary. You're not.
No, I don't think it's a hard one. I think they brought the new guy in just to give Moody a bit of a competition, just to make him kind of not feel comfortable, because he didn't have any competition before, right? He had nobody else for this job. It was him and him alone. They brought that new guy in, bit of a camp body, bit of a camp battle to get him in. And as somebody mentioned there, Moody has changed his mechanics a little bit. I think there's been talk that he's shortened his run up and stuff like that. So he's not trying to kick the ball as hard as he used to. I think he used to just try and boot it as hard as possible, which is why some of his kicks always kind of shanked a bit or why he went a bit low. So I think he's working through that. I think the new guy's just been brought in as a body to G him up a little bit. I think it's Moody's job. There's no way that they're going to draft somebody that high. He's cheap. He's still on his rookie contract. Why would you not run with him?
I mean, to throw Nick Bosa in the mix, Gary. Nick Bosa said at the podium yesterday, the Niners don't care where they pick you in the draft. Basically, if you're not performing on the field, it doesn't matter. Now, I think, Nathaniel, to help you out, buddy, it's a bit too soon. I think if we were doing this show now and say Moody was miles off the pace, he wasn't kicking. I think it was interesting. I think it was Monday where Shanahan was having a chat with Moody and then he missed a kick. So is there that talk about the pressure? The new special teams coordinator has kind of come out and said, same as Gary said there, you know, he was in a bit of an impossible situation last year. He had the injury. He's changed his technique. I mean, Jason Aponte and John Chapman will never forgive the 49ers for taking a kicker that high. And I think that does go against Jake Moody. I think if we'd taken him later or as an undrafted free agent, we're not sat here having this talk.
Yeah.
What I will say, folks, is I have every confidence that our season is not going to be relying on a kicker. I have got every confidence Kyle Shanahan is in that bag of tricks. I think the offensive line is going to be okay. And that's all that Kyle Shanahan needs. I think if you cast your mind back to last year, the reason we were losing games wasn't because of the offense. The reason we were losing games was we were terrible on special teams. We were terrible on defense.
Yeah.
So
you can't win games 2 out of 3. If your 2 out of 3 phases are bad, you're never winning a game. As you say, the offense was not bad last year. All those stats you just rolled off there, Paul. The offense was okay. We just couldn't stop anybody, and we certainly couldn't flip the field on special teams anywhere near often enough.
And if you think of the offense last year, CMC wasn't there. So Brock Purdy had to do a lot with his arm. And I think Brad talked yesterday that he saw a 50-yard bomb from Purdy down the middle to Watkins. A lot of talk about Jordan Watkins. So don't worry, people. We are going to sprinkle those receivers in there. I know it's a topic of conversation. But apparently Purdy's been working a lot on outside the numbers. You know, people bemoan in that 2023 season when we all went to the gold mine that Purdy was, dare we say, a check down merchant. Let him throw to the running backs. McCaffrey might be our best receiver for the first 10 games of the season because, you know, Purcell's being managed with that injury. Ayuk isn't coming back anytime soon. JJ struggling with a calf injury, wants the new contract. So as it stands at the moment, CMC and George Kittle might be your receiving threat. on this team. Am I wrong?
I don't think so. And
No.
when you put those two up as your main two threats, I think most other offenses would be like, okay, thanks. Can we have that? We wouldn't mind that sort of position. Oh, that's a horrible position for you guys to be in, to have CMC and George Kittle as your main weapons. Oh no, poor you. Right? I mean, I think we will see a different offense this year. Obviously, with CMC back, there is no way that Shanahan won't scheme him to be front and center. He might not be touching the ball. He might not be carrying it. He might not be doing it all, but he's going to be in motion. He's going to be somewhere near the ball at all times, because he's the kind of player that 10 players on that other defense are watching where he goes, which could free up Kittle, which could free up JJ, it could free up the others. And I think it's going to be that kind of thing. So the O-line talk that's been in there, et cetera, I think the O-line play will elevate because of the fact that CMC is back, and he does elevate everybody around because of what he can do. You know, he can hit a gap that's, you know, infinitesimally small and break it for 70 odd yards like we saw against the Steelers. But he can also, you know, drop the shoulder and absolutely truck people. So he gives the O-line so much more confidence. Whereas when they were doing it with the rookies and when they were doing it with some of the other guys, they had to make sure those blocks were absolutely perfect. They had to be in exactly the right place. Whereas CMC, you can be a little bit, just kind of maybe just miss that block a little bit. It's okay. He'll make it happen. And I think that's going to allow the O-line to relax a little bit. It'll open up the playbook for Kittle, and maybe Brock does go back to being a bit more short yardage. But hey, is that a problem when it moves us down the field and then he gives it to CMC and we score like 58 touchdowns like CMC scored 2 seasons ago, right? You know, it's no problem for that for me. I think it will open up a few deep shots. But again, as you say, who do those deep shots go to? Because I don't think JJ's a take the top off receiver. I don't think we all know that JJ isn't that kind of take the top off receiver. So who is our deep bomb threat when Purdy does put his new muscles to good use?
Well, we'll go down that road in a moment. The kicker competition. So I said, Nathaniel, I'm not going to make any bold takes. I think the date to keep in mind is August the 16th, the game against Las Vegas. I think at the moment it's kind of Moody's job to lose. And I think Brant Boyer has basically come out and just said, I want consistency. I think Shanahan has been quite good this year. He's let the special teams coordinators, he's let the defensive coordinator pick his guys. But I think that's where we go. As Ty said there, Gary, backing you up, CMC is option 1, Kittle is option 2. And I think JJ thrives as that third option. I know there's a lot of fans wanting us to pay JJ. Don't want to see him get wide receiver 1 money. Yes, he didn't get the 1,000 yards last year because of that stupid ejection. But still, I don't think JJ is your number 1 receiver. I think he's your third option. And I do think with our $265 million QB1, the girl dad energy that's going to be kicking about. Got a special announcement at the end. But we're getting towards the end. Don't go anywhere yet, people. If you want to go top up that brew, we've still got a bit of Niners to talk about. But Nathaniel, last time we spoke, Brock Purdy hadn't signed his contract. There was a lot of questions in the air. But he's now QB1. He's got the contract. Are you Purdy happy? Are you happy with your man?
I'm happy. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Yeah, definitely. I think he's proven what he needs to do. And when you look at it, from a functional perspective, when he's on the field, he wins games. Even though, there seems to be a lot more Purdy haters out there. But yeah, I think he's done to think where he got. What he got taken last in the draft, and to see where he is, he's definitely not Mr. Irrelevant, is he? He's definitely Mr. Relevant. So yeah, no, I'm happy to, and I think it does him well to to have it, and I'm even happy with our backup at the moment, because obviously I think that could be quite hopefully we're not going to be talking about that. Oh, we've lost Gary, but
I'll be back. It's just probably having connection. I mean, the reason I ask, I can see the 13 hung up behind you. But Mr. Kent has been there with his media pass. He's been quick to come off the practice field. Nathaniel is being quick to go live on his phone and talk about it. And as I've said before, I want to see my quarterback taking risks in practice. I want to see them trying something different. That's the point of practice. you know. And what I'm happy about is he elite at the level of what Patrick Mahomes was a few years ago, Josh Allen? Probably not. But does he fit our system perfectly? Yes. Is he our QB1? Yes. And I'm just glad that the conjecture's gone. He's our quarterback. He's the best quarterback that Kyle Shanahan has had for this system. He's looking healthy. He's looking like he's taking his responsibilities seriously. I mean, he missed practice on Friday, chaps. I'm not sure if you're aware.
I think we let him off.
I was going to say, I wasn't sure at the time, but obviously the news has since broke. But at the end, I've got a special shout out for Brock and for CMC because we know the watch in, Santa Clara. So anything else that you two want to talk about? Because I'm just going to answer a question in the chat whilst I give you a chance to think. Richie, you are correct, buddy. They haven't played anybody yet. But to clear it up, in practice, the run defense has looked pretty impressive. And I'm biased, but this is the best offense in the league. So if they're stopping the best offense in the league in training, it bodes well. But it is a good point to bear in mind. And Paul
it's a good point to remember as we go through all of this pre-season talk that until pads are on, but it's still scrimmage. It's not real until we maybe get some of that Raiders joint practice. That's when we might see some of the real sort of stuff when it's against another team who you're not playing against. That's when you can maybe start taking a little bit more notice of some of the stories. But right now, it's practice. Yes, they're stopping the run, but who knows? You got to take everything with a little bit of a pinch of salt.
I mean, as Ty has put there, good friend of the show, Mac Jones needed to get his flowers in training. I don't know if you've seen Nathaniel.
Apparently, Mac Jones throws a beautiful deep ball.
I do have my Mac Jones jersey ready. It's not a hastily photoshopped version of my old Jimmy G number with Jones written across, but I'm ready. I'm ready just in case, as Gav said there's any controversy. But Nathaniel, was there anything that you wanted to touch upon on tonight's show? Because I know we've jumped around all over to what happens on the line.
Yeah, I think for me, like one of the kind of things, because we touched on like wide receiver. I think that even though Pearsall's been sort of injured, or has he been injured, or is this all sort of psychological to kind of confuse, other teams? Is Shani doing it? I mean, possibly, but I do think he's going to have a breakout year this year. I think he showed sort of glimpses.
So what you're saying, Nathaniel? Kyle Shanahan hasn't been entirely honest with an injury report. I don't believe you, buddy.
Shocking. Never heard that before.
But no, I'm just saying. I think that Ricky Pearsall is going to have I think he's going to have a breakout season this year. I really do. I think that he was taken. He's taken the first round for a reason. Is that a bit of a bold prediction? Yes, it probably is a bold prediction. But I do think he did show glimpses up until he got injured. Towards the end of last season. So. Yeah, I think
we've got just on that, Nathaniel. I think we've got to remember the guy got shot last summer.
Yeah.
Right. So we've got to just be aware that yes, he came back and was fit to play, but was he really fit to play? And did he really get up? Being shot, it means he's lost time in the office. He's lost time at training ground. He's lost all that sort of building momentum. And as you say, towards the end of the season, he started to click. He started to come through. And I think you're right. I think he's probably penciled in for that Debo-esque kind of role. He's got a similar sort of mind. He's not the same sort of build, obviously, but he's shifty. He does those sweeps. He does those reverses and stuff. I think he's penciled in for that Debo-esque or Debo-light role this year. And I think, we need that sort of intermediate there. If everyone's looking at Kittle and everyone's looking at CMC, somebody's not looking at Pearsall there. So he's going to be short to intermediate slants, take it to the house type of routes. I can see him feeding off a lot of that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think what we've got to remember is, shot last summer, probably wasn't fully up to speed for the first 6 to 8 weeks. Then unfortunately started to catch fire, then got injured. So who knows what we're going to get this season. But I do think you're right. I think he is going to be one to watch. He's going to probably push for that wide receiver one kind of level of attention over the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season.
I think I agree with both of you. I don't think he's a home run. I think he's a calculated bet. I think his strengths are shown why we drafted him, Nathaniel. Elite route running, the body control, the mental strength, as Gary said there, to recover from that last year. And part of the reason we did draft him was obviously his injury record in college was good. He passed all the mental tests. And I think he's primed to deliver more than the 400-yard rookie total he got last year. I don't think he's going to be the Debo we saw in 2019 where Carl literally put the team on Debo's back.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised, as Gary said there, that we see Ricky Purcell emerge as Brock's favourite target. One of my best plays from last year was against the Lions, where Purcell's doing an in, and before he's even at the top of his route, Brock's releasing that ball. Now, as someone who's played flag football, Nathaniel, not to a high standard, and someone who's coached flag football, seeing that in slow motion and just seeing the trust between the quarterback and the receiver, and the fact that Purcell's head's not even round and Brock's released that ball, and it's the one where it was right near the sideline. Purcell catches it in, toe taps. So I am all aboard the Purcell train. I was a bit nervous that he changed his number. I was a little bit nervous, not going to lie. But, that old adage, if you look good, you feel good, you play good. He repped it well in college,
I think
didn't
he played
Gary?
it in college. I think he played that number in college, didn't he? So, yeah.
He did. Was there anything you wanted to touch upon, Gary? So, Nat showing the love to Purcell. Was there anything that you wanted to talk about?
I'm hearing the love, and I liking the stories. And I don't know if anybody in the chat and Ty and some of the guys out there. Isaiah Naylor. I'm curious about him. He seems to be getting some of the big receptions, some of the contended sort of balls. He's getting up there. He seems like a bit of a big body sort of Terrell Owens-esque type receiver, and he's getting a lot of rumbles and noise. Yes, tends to be Matt Jones is thrown to him, so he's obviously not getting first team reps and stuff like that. But I'm interested if he sneaks under the radar, either onto the squad or into the practice squad, and then gets activated later, because it sounds like one of those ones that might be one of those late round flyers that nobody really knew about but came good. So that's one guy whose name that I love to see popping up, but hopefully not popping up too much where people take more notice of it.
Well, George Kittle mentioned him on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast and said, he's probably one of the more physically gifted receivers he's seen. Yeah. And apparently that his stride is unbelievable. I mean, Jake,
I think I saw that. Yeah, he literally eats up the ground, doesn't he? And the cornerback like, he's passed me already. I've got to turn. And by which point, he's got.
It is an interesting battle. I mean, to be fair, when I say to Tracy, I'm doing a show, she's like, what have you got to talk about? And then when I shared off air with you two chaps, what are we going to talk about? The start of the show, we talked that we're going to mention everything. It's impossible to do in an hour, but in the next coming weeks, I think we'll start doing more dedicated shows, as in get you two guys back on and maybe do a wide receiver show. Then the week after, do a linebacker show, and we'll start drilling it in. But obviously, it was just kind of good to get back out there. The news that I did want to talk about, we're not the only Brock and CMC. So our good friend Crystal Secure, who is a friend of the show, she announced this news on social media that she is expecting again.
Yay!
Now, to be fair, she did reach out. Her and Chris did send me a message last week, and I was sworn to secrecy, which if anybody knows, when Gowland tells me a secret, it's hard for me to keep. So I'm glad, Gary, that I kept that one. But I just wanted to say, Crystal, congratulations.
Oh, big, massive congratulations to Crystal and Chris. We love you guys. Congratulations.
The girl dad energy. So on that note, I feel like I'm doing a lot of these baby announcements. So Brock and Jenna Purdy, congratulations on the arrival of their beautiful baby girl, Millie Jolene Purdy. The photo that they shared on social media was lovely. CMC and his wife, Olivia, recently welcomed Colette Annalise McCaffrey into the world. And boys, the girl dad energy is at an all-time high. I'm feeling the vibes. What do you reckon, Nathaniel?
Well, if it gives them, sort of spirit and, emphasizes them to perform well this year, yeah, absolutely. But yeah,
so, before we finish off, a slightly left field kind of thank you. So, Gary, I know me and you both dipped our toe into the flag football world, then we stepped away. I just want to give a special shout out to my old team, the Steel River Stingrays. They hosted Sunday's Baffa game up at Redcar. It was good for me to go along, catch up with fellow faithful Ian Keane, ex-teammates on the Steel Rays, and some new faces. So it was kind of nice I rocked up with my Purdy t-shirt It's the first time I've seen some of the chaps since I stepped away. It was also good, Gary. You'll have seen James Evans, good friend of the show.
Yeah.
Rocking 23 for the Calderdale Local Motives. It's the first time that I've saw them guys live in action. Their record doesn't speak for the effort, the attitude, the energy. Them guys made me feel welcome. If they were closer to me, Nathaniel, I might be tempted to dig the boots back out because it looks like they have a whole lot of fun. But it was finally great to get along, Gary, see some flag football in action. And I just wanted to say a shout out to a Cowboys fan, believe it or not. So Ian Keane, who's a good friend of ours.
Wait. Can we just get Wayne's t-shirt? Can we get Wayne's t-shirt ready?
So Ian's son Noah is a Cowboys fan. I have a
he
lot
doesn't
of
know any better.
Good, fun-natured banter with him. But he was stood with me on Sunday, Gary, and I was displaying some Tony Romo-esque play calling. I was calling the plays before that happened. Now, obviously, I'd played for that team before, so I had an understanding of the playbook. But it was quite impressive to see Noah kind of a bit like, how have you called that? But he is a fine young chap. Despite being a Cowboys fan, he does watch the show. So I did want to give a shout out. Gary, any news flag football for you? Are you making a return, or is that you done?
Yeah, tried it once. It's too difficult for me in my old age now to go from used to playing contact to going to play flag. I literally could have walked out of there with broken fingers every week. It's a different mindset. The closing speed, you can't do what you used to do. What I used to do when I used to play full contact, you used to charge in and just take people out. You do that in flag football, you're left floundering. So it was a nice try. It was a nice sort of a throwback, but I've tried it once. I can't go back. My fingers and thumbs can't deal with it.
The reason I was asking is I know it's a bit far for you, Nathaniel. Gary sometimes does like to travel, but there's I can't pronounce the name of the brand, but they make the jerseys for all the teams, and they host a Masters flag football tournament for the old men like me. You're over 40s. I played last year, and I said to Tracy, one and done. I've signed up for this year. It's going to be in September. So, I will go back and play the Masters football. It will be the week after the BAFA finals. So, final note, congratulations to those teams that did make it in Manchester. But Gary, Nathaniel, thank you for joining me tonight. That has been a blast as always. Do you want to tell people where to find you, Gary? Because I know you've got some of your content of your own.
I've got some little bits and pieces, but it's been a bit slow, as you say, taking time off. We've had to revisit the NFL UK group, NFL around the UK. Alec and Matty have had to kind of step away. So if anybody's watching in the group who fancies trying their hand at podcasting, talking about NFL in general, not just Niners, give me a shout. Come and have a chat. We're looking to spin some things up for the season. If you've got any outlandish takes, we're more than welcome to join us. I'm sure if you've had any chance to watch some of that, and obviously my F1 stuff is still floating around, but you can get me on that handle everywhere. And apparently, Paul, I don't know if you're aware, I'm now a TikTok sort of icon as well, because from my Formula One volunteering, I somehow managed to absolutely hammer it on TikTok. That's slightly embarrassing.
Well, we might have a job for you there then, because we did set up a TikTok account, and then the admin member who set it up stepped away due to obviously personal reasons, and it's just kind of been sat there. I'll be honest, Nathaniel, my daughters love TikTok. It's the one social media platform that I've stayed away from. So, Gary, I'm sure Nathaniel would love to jump on your channel. If you drop a tweet out, Gary, tag me in the group in it. I'll share that. Nathaniel, I'm sure you'll be delighted to come back on.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. It's been so much fun talking football. I'm still interested, and that's kind of why I'm probably wearing black and red tonight, because they've got they've got kind of like, just, I know that we're almost at the end of it, but just
don't worry, there's no rush.
I was just going to say that the whole, I'm going to be interested to know what colour the jerseys are going to be, because they've made these new jerseys, and do you know what I mean?
Also, why are we only getting to wear it in week 18?
So, to be honest with you, Nathaniel, Gary already knows a secret. So, Gary, you're not allowed to share what you know, but I've given up, Nathaniel, on waiting for the rivalry jerseys. So, I've ordered a new home jersey. So, there's a lot of talk about who I've gone for. It's not 13, but the rivalry jersey. When I saw that announcement last week, I thought it was a gold jersey, because I saw the red jersey kind of like crumple up. Then I didn't really pay much attention what was behind it. Then the whole screen went gold and said rivalry jersey. So on my lunch break at work, tweeted out gold jersey. But when I've watched it back, I think the jersey underneath that red one is a black one. And I think the jersey you've got on there, I think it was one made just for the Super Bowl. I think the black jersey from a few years ago was one of my favourites. But I think the knock on that was it didn't have the gold piping. And I think as yours got the gold piping on the numbers.
Yeah, the cheap Chinese one. That no, I don't
say other places are available.
I mean, Ty Alston says you're rocking the new one there. To be honest, Oliver Stretfield had that one when we went to
that was the fan one, wasn't it? It was the fan-based one, yeah.
So if it drops and you like it, Nathaniel, what number are you getting?
Or do I just stick with 23? I mean, I've got 23 here, so I don't know. But yeah, to be honest, I would like to get a Ricky Pearsall one. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah, I'm just hoping. The thing is, I got number 5 a few years ago, and that worked out really well, didn't it?
I saw. So to be honest,
as well.
The reason I don't have a 13 is I fell in love with Kaepernick. I then went all in on Jimmy G. I nearly bought a Trey Lance. And like you, the gold jersey you talk about is the legend fit where the numbers are printed in. You can only really get them from America. And I was like, no, I'll hold off the Trey Lance. And I think Wayne bought a signed Trey Lance full-size helmet. And then we released him or traded him, whatever. And I was like, oh, God. So I think if I like the rivalry jersey, I'll get a Purdy. And it's not until the 28th of August. And as you said, Gary, week 18. Why does Seattle have 3 rivalry games? We have
but only the home team are wearing it though, right? So I think that's Seattle happen to be playing 3 rivalry games, but they're only wearing the shirt once because I think then Arizona will wear theirs and LA will wear theirs. And I think it's safe to say Arizona, it looks like they're coming out with the sand coloured one, which should be pretty cool. And I think the LA one's blue and black, which I'm not entirely sure how they can do that. But I know. But yeah, week 18 for us to get it. I mean, it's going to come out at the end of August. Most of the fans are going to buy it, wear it most of the season before the team even wear it. It's like, I don't know.
So can you remember the 75th anniversary kit with the badge on?
Yeah.
And we were all like, we're not buying it. And I remember waking up for work at about 7:15. I'd had a message off Gowland, a message off Gary. I think Connor had messaged me. By the time I decided to log on, the 54s had gone. And I got a kit 85, and I thought I was the only one in the UK. We rocked up at Bristol, and that's where Club 85 was formed because we all had 85 jerseys. But I must admit, I love a good social media campaign. But I'm a little bit over this one. They've teased it a little bit too much for me. And seeing the video last week of the players kind of like looking at the kit, but we could only see their reactions. The black jersey that was out a few years ago, I had a 53 Bowman. Doesn't fit me anymore. So I gave it to Jay Peplow last year in London because it was just too good to be sat in the wardrobe.
Yeah.
Before we finish off on that note, Gary, what I did want to ask you about is I know a few of you guys have set up the swap shop, the buy and sell group on Facebook. So I was lucky enough to.
You were one of our first sellers, weren't you? Your cap
So
went to Colin Hay.
I might have 1 or 2 caps, and Tracy may have pointed out I need to clear out some stuff. So I had an old salute to service cap that I didn't wear. Nathaniel stuck it on the group, £20 posted. Colin snapped it up straight away. So it's just something that we're trialing, isn't it, Gary? I think there's yourself, Wayne, Oliver are managing that group.
Yeah, I think Tris just sold his road McCaffrey jersey as well. I think somebody's just offered him what Tris was looking for. So, it's slowly getting there. And as you say, it's a little group for the 49er faithful. We've all got stuff. We've all got things that maybe still sit in the cupboard, maybe haven't been worn. Paul, like yourself, we may or may not have quite a collection of caps that you don't actually get round to wearing. Don't look behind me, for crying out loud.
As Tracy says, Gary, you only have one head. That's what Tracy always says to me.
Yeah, but there's 31 days in the month, right?
Hey, preaching to the converted, brother. To be honest, I've reinvested the money off Colin. I've got a lovely signed Fred Warner trading card on the way. So
Oh,
It
don't
was
go down
free,
the.
Nathaniel.
You're going down the trading card route. There's a dangerous place. So yeah, that group, as we say, it's for the 49er faithful UK. It's a safe area. We're trading between ourselves, just to make sure that everyone who doesn't have a kit or doesn't have any sort of cap or whatever else, that's the place to go. We'll sell it amongst ourselves. There's no which one.
Well, to be fair, Gary, he needs to check the group because Oliver Stretfield has two residency hats on that site. Now, we don't get any commission, Nathaniel. And David, I know you don't do Facebook, but it's somewhere we had to start. It originated because Lee originally blocked the sales posts because we were nervous of the influx of new people. We didn't want people getting ripped off. It was difficult to manage. And as Gary said there, Nathaniel, we all love our merch. You ship stuff in from America, it can be expensive. Something might not fit. You might decide you don't like it. So we've set up, if you want to join, you have to be a member of the Facebook group. You then come across to the Facebook. It's mainly for the UK people who are watching. So Ty Alston, I'm sorry, buddy, you might not be able to join being in the States. But it's more a buy and sell swap like you see on Facebook. I think there's a couple of NFL sites. But this way you can vouch for it, can't you, Gary? So, for example, if Nathaniel wanted to put something for sale, somebody wasn't sure, they would reach out to the admin team. One of us would vouch for you. But it's just in its early days, isn't it?
It's still in its infancy, but yeah, it's that safe place, as you say. Everyone who's in there has to have been part of the main group for 6 months at least. We have to know who you are. So it's not like you join the group, join the sales group, and suddenly go, "Hey, I've got all this to sell," and you'll get authorized. It's kind of people we trust, people we vouch for, people we know. You have to make sure that, like all the other sales, you put a piece of paper with the date and everything else, so it's not just like a random photo off the internet, etc. So they're just trying to help out the UK team. As you say, some of us are more lucky than others. Some of us have more kit than others. Some of us are infinitely stupid and buy so much merch and things, and you go, where am I going to store it when you move house? He says, with boxes of stuff still waiting to go up. So I'll be using it soon. It's just a nice little place where people can suddenly go, oh, I wanted one of those, I missed out on it. Somebody's got Paul's Salute to Service cap as a prime example, limited edition, only came out once. Somebody else loved that cap, missed out on it. Colin's now got one. It's win-win all round.
So Richard, I'm from Darlington and I live in Middlesbrough, but I will let that one slide. And I wish I could buy a house for £15. But as Gav has said, the chat has been on fire tonight. That is it for today's 49er Faithful UK Live. A big thank you to everybody who joined us today. Thank you once again to Nathaniel and Gary for joining me to talk all things Niners with a UK twist. If you have enjoyed the show, please hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you never miss a show from the UK Faithful. We are a bit all over the place at the moment with our timings. Unfortunately, this isn't our day job. We do have lives. We do have paid employment that gets in the way. Mr. Gowland wasn't here tonight because it's his youngest's 21st birthday. So I did want to finish off by saying happy birthday to the youngest Gowland in the house. But fear not, chaps, El Presidente will return. Not 100% sure, Gary. It's either Reese or Ethan. I've got a 50% chance. I should know this one, but I've got my phone switched off. So that's why I tried to be diplomatic. But those people who know, I'm still on a high from getting St. John Brown's name right last week. I'm not repeating it because if you want to see me get it right, I got it right last week.
We nailed it last week.
But this is what we do on the 49er Faithful UK. All that is left for me to say. So until next time, Faithful, trust the process. Go Niners.
We love the San Francisco 49ers deep in the heart. Like Joe Montana in the corner, Deep Clark, Garrison Hurst, stiff